Hi there, this is Sober Steve. My name is Steve Truesdell. I am a recovering alcoholic and welcome to my YouTube channel. I've been in recovery for 23 years and I've been doing this YouTube channel for about 4 months, I guess, 3 months. And, it's really been eye-opening for me. It's like I started this just in hopes that I could help a person or two. And, fortunately, I feel like I've been able to do that to a degree and talk to so many people about it, but it just has opened so much dialogue. And it's just interesting for me because even in my own circle, my girlfriend and my dad and my sister, and my brother, and, people that are in my life all the time that, haven't really talked to me in depth about my sobriety over the years. And it's just been very interesting. And like I always say, I think that, almost every other family that you run into has somebody that has an addiction problem or a problem with alcohol. And, I just think the more people that are aware of the issue and, understand, what alcoholism is all about, then, maybe they can help themselves or help people that they care about. And, that's what we're hoping to do here. So if you've watched my videos, I kind of have bounced around with my topics and things like that. And this week I'm going to do part 3 of my story. So I did part 1 of my story was basically chronicled my drinking days from when I started, which sadly was, probably the age of 12, 13 years old. And then through my middle teens, maybe 16, 17. And then part 2 I did from the age of 17 till maybe, this picture is going to be distracting, 17 to, like 2021. So that's where I'm going to pick up tonight. And I might duplicate a story or two from story 2, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some things. But, when I went into recovery and I started to hear what other alcoholics had to say, there were certain stories that were really just like, wow, I felt like I was listening to my own, and I think that's part of the medicine that is, support groups and AA and things like that. As we talk to other alcoholics, we understand that some of the insanities that we have in our life aren't as uncommon as we think. Hopefully when I tell my stories, people will do the same, and I guess, you'd say a functioning alcoholic because I always went to work and I've always done quite well at my jobs. I've always been a hard worker. I've always gotten along with my, the people I report to and my coworkers and things like that. And I think that most of the people over my career that worked with me would have never known I was an alcoholic. Unlike the people in my, my everyday life. I think I was able to hide that to a degree from a lot of people that I worked with. But, I also had a small group of people that I always worked with that would drink with me, and they probably wouldn't be as surprised. But, just to reiterate that, just because somebody goes to work every day because they're good at their job, because they're engaged in their everyday life doesn't mean that they're not an alcoholic. So many of us can do that. So, but when I was 20, 21, I think I left off when I was 21 because I had quit drinking for 6 months when I was 21 to try to get my girlfriend at the time back, and it didn't work. And then I went back out there and hit it full and heavy again. And when I got up and over that relationship, it took some time. My heart was pretty crushed for some time, and I'd say probably 6 months or so. It was kind of a rough go. But as I healed, I enjoyed the last year that I had in college. I had a lot of good friends in college. I had some fraternity brothers that I was pretty close with, and my roommates at the time. And I wouldn't say that was a bad period, but I was inebriated, all the time. And When I graduated, it took me some time. I actually went to school for sportscasting, and I had an internship at Channel 2, and I always wanted to be a sportscaster. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a full-time job that was good in Detroit at the time, and I didn't like you. I would have had to move to like Alpena and work for minimum wage and to be a production studio guy or something. And I just didn't. I didn't have the guts or the. I don't know. I just didn't want to do it. So I knew I had to get a job, and I saw an ad in the paper that a restaurant was hiring managers if you had a college degree. And so I got in the restaurant gig, and I was a restaurant manager for maybe 4 years. And through that time, I worked for a restaurant called the Ground Round, and I was assistant manager for a couple of years, and I was assistant general manager. Worked in Livonia and Farmington Hills. I trained in Jackson, and I still have some friends that I keep in touch with from that. I met some great people, but the thing is, when I was a manager at Livonia, we had a bar, so we would close the bar at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then it was our time. So I would close the bar at 1, and then me and a select few employees would just drink as much as we wanted from the tap. It was free. So we stole it, really. I mean, not even really. Yeah, we stole the beer. So we drank beer from the tap, as many as we could. I mean, we would stay there till 3 in the morning sometimes and play in the Pop-A-Shot game and stuff. And I would just get just inebriated and drive home. I'd get home at 3:30 in the morning. My ex-wife would be asleep. I was married at that time. I kind of skipped over that. But she was asleep because I would close a lot of nights. And so I pulled that off. But I'll back up then. So, because I got off on the career tangent. So, but during that time, on a social level, I was single for a couple of years, and then I started to date my ex-wife, and I had known her for a couple of years in college. I was friends with her sister and her brother-in-law, and I actually dated her roommate for some time, and so I'd known her for some time. We knew each other. She certainly knew that I partied, and but I don't know if she understood the extent, or maybe she did and she didn't. She just didn't think it through. But so we dated. I think we were only dating like 6 months, and we got engaged. And I paused because there's some things that I don't want to share because I don't. It's personal stuff. So. One thing I do remember I was really worried about. So we got engaged, I think it was about a year later that our wedding was. And I was very apprehensive about the wedding because to this day, I've never liked weddings. I don't, even when I drink, I didn't like them. Different reasons now, when I drink, I didn't like it because, I never liked the whole formality of it and everything like that. I'd rather just go to the bar or go home and drink and stuff. But the cool thing with weddings when you're drunk is that there's usually an open bar. So that was the good part, right? But at my own wedding, I was very nervous about that because I didn't want to ruin it, and I was determined that I wasn't going to get drunk and ruin the wedding. And I didn't. I didn't ruin the wedding. I did get drunk, but so I passed that test. It was also during the fall, which is my friends and Michigan friends know I'm not a big fan of fall weddings. Yeah, like if I have to miss going to a Michigan game to go to a wedding, I'm not happy. I've only done it a handful of times in my life because it doesn't even mean I don't care about you. But if you want me to miss something that I've been doing since I was 10 years old, that's how I always look at it. I've been going to every Michigan game since I was 10 years old, basically. And it's what I love to do. I love that on the weekends. And, the people that care about me aren't going to want me to miss that to go to a wedding. So anyway, I should do a whole freaking video on weddings and fall weddings. But I'll start losing my followers. I don't have very many. But anyway, now I'm getting off into the ditch. But anyways, fall wedding, passed it. Michigan actually played an early afternoon game. I was able to watch it before the wedding. Beat Minnesota in 1993. and I don't remember the score. You can Google it, but it was, you know, probably 31-10 or something. And so anyway, I survived that day. Then we went on our honeymoon to Cancun, and we flew the next morning. My parents were nice enough. That was our wedding present from them, is full paid honeymoon to Cancun, Mexico, at this sweet like 5-star hotel on the beach. It was amazing, but you know, it was great seeing that and stuff. But like my drinking really dampened that. For sure. I mean, I remember sleeping on the balcony a couple nights because I was so drunk, and she was mad at me, and there was just a lot. So that was pretty normal, you know. We'd be having a good time, and I'd just get drunk, and then she'd start nagging at me, and then I'd start being an asshole, and it was just repeat, you know. And so we did that for quite a few years. I'd say was 26 when I got married, and I quit when I was 30. So for 4 years, and when we dated. So probably 5 years of our relationship was just that, you know, same old, me just getting drunk. I had her nagging, and then us getting in a huge fight, and then me apologizing and trying to make it up and feeling terribly guilty and hating myself for, you know, the next several days. And then till I can convince myself and remind myself that what a good person I was, and that I was just, you know, I got drunk and I made a mistake and it won't happen again. And then it would happen again. And it was just the same old. So that, you know, that went on for quite a long time. And the first few years, you know, she never really brought up like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic or I should quit. Then she started to bring that up a little bit. And it would just cause a lot of fights. So there was, you know, she would start to nag at me and like point out, you know, you don't need to drink then, you don't need to drink then. And, you know, I resented it because I needed to drink, you know, and it was tough. And I remember, I mean, it's kind of funny thinking back, but just to kind of show you where I was, like one of my favorite things to do is, you know, I'd be like mow the lawn or whatever, and I would come in and I would take cold beer into the shower, you know. And so one day I took one in there, and she heard it, and she's like, "What do you got to drink in the shower?" You know, and you know, it didn't go well. So I got to a point where I figured out I take 2 into the bathroom with me, start the shower, and then run the water and then I would open them both at one time, because that way if she heard, she'd at least think I was only drinking 1 shower beer and not 2. So I mean, like that, and then just slam one, throw it under the sink, and then grab the other one, go in the shower, slam that one in the shower, throw it under the sink, and then I'd forget, you know, and then she'd go under the sink, and like an avalanche of empty beer cans. It was just how I lived, you know. And there was, I remember when we moved, our first house, when we moved out of there, and I was sober at that time, and I was cleaning out the garage and the basement, and you know, I mean, I forgot like ceiling tiles, there was empties up there. I mean, anywhere I could hide just so that she wouldn't know that I had drank so much, you know. And that was just a way of life, you know. And I would drink and drive all the time. I would go over my friends and get drunk and come home, go to the bar, get drunk and come home. And then now we'll tie it back to the restaurant job, because I would drive home from work drunk, because I loved when I had to close, because I knew it was free beer time, you know, and I knew she'd be asleep when I got home. So there was nobody even to question me or challenge me. Then she'd get up and go to work 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever. And, you know, I didn't have to work again until, usually if you closed, you didn't have to work till at least early afternoon the next day. So I could sleep in, get up and do it all over again. So just to, you know, I don't know if that helps at all, or if I just, you know, telling stupid old stories, but that's how my life was. And you know, when I would go to my family's house that, you know, I grew up in, my parents, my sister and brother, you know, it would be family holiday or, you know, 4th of July. And I was getting to a point where I would always overdrink, you know, or the Michigan football games, like I mentioned, you know. There were times when my grandpa was alive, and he was the one that kind of got us in. He started to buy the tickets way back in like the 1950s, or before that in the 40s. And I wouldn't want, even though I was of age, I didn't want him to see me drink so much at the tailgate, because he was kind of He was a very proper guy, and he would have a drink, but you don't get carried away, and but I would just get up and just friggin' start drinking, and just drink in the car on my way to meet them at the golf course for the tailgate. And so I'd be pretty lit up by the time I got there sometimes. And I remember one time before I got married, I had a roommate in this apartment, and I don't know if I told this story or not before, but I was drinking till like 4 o'clock in the morning, and went to bed, and then I had to get up at like 7, and I got up and I didn't feel good, and I was throwing up in the sink, and he got up, he's like, "Are you all right? What's going on?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I cracked a 40 ounce of Bud Light, and I just started drinking it again. And I didn't think anything of it. It's like, I'm going to a Michigan football game. I got to drink. And so, that was my life. And, once I was married, there was less. I didn't get pulled over for drunk driving one time in the time that I was married. As you know from my other stories, that it was a repeated situation from the time I was 16 until 21. But then I never did again, and I was very fortunate because I certainly did drink and drive. And I would lie about the amount that I drank to everybody that cared about me, because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want the nagging. And so that's just what my life was, and a lot of fights in my relationship. And so, as I mentioned before, when it was time to get clean, the last year or so, that came up more in the fights. Like, hey, I think you're an alcoholic. You need to do something about it. And I was so determined I wasn't going to do it for her. I wasn't going to do it because she told me to do it. And as I'd said before, what finally hit me was when my son was born, and I just knew I didn't want to be a dad that was going to be out of control and that he couldn't count on. And that's, to this day, he's 25. That's probably a big part of what's kept me sober, because I don't want to look him in the eye that his dad couldn't do it, that I'm not somebody he can trust or count on. And, let him, he's had his own storms, and I've been able to be there for him, and I wouldn't have been able to. So grateful, I'm really grateful for that. And if you're watching this and you're still drinking and you have a problem, I know how you feel. I really know how you feel. And somebody that I know and very close to mentioned to me before, no offense, but it's been so many years, maybe you don't really remember what it's like. And I do. I've worked my butt off for 23 years to have this serenity, to have this calm and this peace within me. It hasn't been easy, but I still remember vividly what it felt like to wake up in the morning and to hate myself because I said something mean to somebody I loved the night before, that I drove drunk, that I, let my electric shut off because I didn't pay the bill because I didn't give a damn, and I just went and spent my money at the bar. Or, things that I did in my life that they don't go away. I don't feel guilty anymore about them, and I don't own all those feelings, but I remember it, and I don't ever want to go back there. So that's my story. That kind of wraps up my drinking story. As I make these videos, I'm always going to flash back to stories and stuff like that. And because that's just a big part of it, And the thing is, no matter what your drink of choice is, if it's wine, beer, it could be freaking mouthwash, if it's bourbon, gin, we all have some common characteristics. And it's like, that number one is when I start to drink, I have difficulty stopping. You might be able to go 2 weeks without drinking, but if you pick one up and then it's hard to not have a second, or you pick up that second and it's hard not to have a third, those are the things to look for. Because, you you can't erase that. That's a problem, and that's a common characteristic of alcoholics. And so if you have that, you're doing yourself a disservice if you can't acknowledge it and don't try to get some help for it. And I hope you do. I hope that listening to me rambling and my stupid stories helps you in some way. Always reach out. I have a couple more emails with some questions. The next week I'm going to read some more questions, and I love that. If anybody wants to reach out at any time, you can email me at soberstevechannel@gmail.com. Reach out, social media. If you know me and you have my phone number, text me, call me. But I love the questions, because other people have things in their head that I don't always recognize, or I don't know what to touch on. So anyway, that's it. That's my story. I could go on for 10 million years with drunk stories, but I don't think there's any need for that right now. And I hope that if you have an issue, that this helped you a little bit. And please reach out to me. Thanks for watching. Always say like and subscribe, please, because it gets noticed on YouTube. More people will watch it. And I'll be back next week for Mailbag Part 2. And then I'm going to do the field trip on the 11th. We're going to go to the Michigan-Washington game. I'm going to show you how I tailgate sober and what that whole experience is like. And I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, thanks for checking out my channel, and I hope everybody has a great night.